Hello everyone, today we'll be taking a look at a tribe from the Battle of Polytopia that is misunderstood a good deal, which is Polaris. I'll be showing you how to play Polaris, giving you tips, and then giving a demonstration match, playing as Polaris against bots. Polaris are misunderstood in three main ways. So firstly, people make the mistake of being far too expansionist when they're playing Polaris. Polaris have a starting unit that can die in 2 hits from any attack and deals no damage. It facilitates attack later on once you've built up an economy, which you should do as soon as you start the game. Secondly, people assume the lack of battleships that Polaris have cripple them. In reality, the ability to freeze enemy navies kind of makes up for this weakness in the long run. And finally, Polaris players often forget that mobile units combined with Gaamis should be your main assets, and that really your units like your battle sleds, your ice fortresses, they are really your navy substitute. They should only really be used on ice, except in very certain circumstances. You can see here that I'm at an economic disadvantage compared to the other tribes. I have less cities than the bots, less troops, and only 1 economic tech. This is not a concern though, since Polaris are the quintessential late game tribe. As Polaris, you must always make concessions early on until you get economic techs and riding. In general, techs on the riding branch are very valuable to Polaris due to their high damage output versus frozen units that lets you overwhelm people quickly in the later game. For now, I look to make all my cities at least level 2 and take workshops to improve the economy. After this process is complete, I will build riders on land and prioritize moonies to freeze water that I want to cross. Moonies should not be used in confrontation much, if at all, and should work in pairs to freeze water to bridge gaps and level up your ice bank. As for military, players make the mistake of attacking on lands with special units just because they exist, which I would consider to be a serious mistake. Sledges are all but useless on land, which is why riding is so important because of their reduced movement and inability to have dash or escape. They effectively just become a worse version of the giant that costs far too much for what they're offering you. And ice fortresses should only be used really on defense, maybe to pummel cities and to sink ships, which is their primary function. Gaamis are always your main task force and are not to be underestimated under any circumstances because of their ability to lock down an entire area at virtually no cost to them whatsoever. On the attack, you ought to seriously consider using the Polaris tech to allow Gaamis to reach and freeze lock battleships quickly, and this will give way for sledges to start dealing damage. You should by the late game have a sizable economy thanks to roads, outposts and the ice bank, which is another reason to research the riding branch of techs. That tech branch is very useful to Polaris at all phases of the game really. If the enemies get the advantage against you, your solution lies in the Gaami. Build as many possible and riders to accompany before counter-attacking. This may consume your whole budget and mean you have to take population growth rather than border growth, but it can throw off players and cause their economy to have less of an impact because of the necessity of defending. This is a strategy I would consider to be most effective on land, but it can be serviceable on ice if you have no sledges. Late game especially, riders should be slowly replaced by knights and sledges are produced en masse to break down defences. Riders can also be used in a guerrilla style of combat to slowly wear down attackers by attacking and then retreating into fog. This strategy is not Polaris specific, since you will be researching riding anyway. It costs you little to use these tactics against stray polytaurs, warriors and especially archers. Consider using this kind of guerrilla strategy versus Illyrion or Hoodrick while you build your economy up slowly. As for mindbenders, swordsmen and catapults, I would not recommend the use of any of these 3 units. While undoubtedly useful in some circumstances, they are simply not conducive to the Polaris playstyle, namely Gaamis and mobile units. Mindbenders especially are a massive one-trick pony that just won't fool anyone with basic awareness of their surroundings more than once. Of course I'm talking about PvP here against bots, yeah, just use whatever you want really. Swordsmen and catapults are less bad and just more slow. Enemy ships will have time to move away from the ice sheets occupied by these units, and then just proceed to kill them off from range, especially in the case of swordsmen. This is suboptimal in any serious game, especially later on, unless you happen to be playing drylands. Now to my final comments on matchups. Polaris tends to fare well on larger maps with some water and worse on small, dry maps. This makes them similar to a stronger Aquarion-style tribe, late-game naval domination. I would also say that Polaris can hold their own in smaller maps if only because of quick water bridging, but this can also be achieved by tribes like Kiku. Kiku are your main rival as Polaris, and you can engage them in the late game. Early on though, your economy will simply be insufficient. As for expansionist tribes, you should engage them whenever you feel that your economy outclasses theirs, which could be as early as turn 10. Especially this applies to Illyrion and Hoodrick, who have delicate units. Vangear tend to simply be a nuisance until you have Gaamis holding out with their swordsmen. This brings me why I like this terraforming ice tribe so much, the ability to shake up the stale matter and bring to it a playstyle all of its own. I'll go out there, freeze the square, and come back next time for my video on Hoodrick. Goodbye.